Yo, 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 welcome to another episode of the Culturally Controversial Podcast. Man, I'm your host, Simply Nicholas 87, and my co-host, Ty H.
What's going on, folks? It's good to be back.
Good to be back, man. We've been gone for a little minute, but now we're back with a jump off. So, you already know how that feeling right there.
Yeah, that worked.
Yeah, so appreciate everybody for coming in. If you come in tonight, man, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the content, man. We out here. We finna make we're trying to get up to 250. We on the road. We need about 17 more. We'll be the 250. So y'all hit that subscribe button, man. Put it out there, man. You know, I don't come up here unless we really got a lot of good topics. And I feel like this has been burning the barn since Sunday, Saturday
I
night.
know where you're getting at.
Yeah, it's been burning the barn since Sunday, Saturday night. Had a lot of mixed controversy with people on this specific topic of it must be the money. But as you know, Deion Sanders accepted the job at Colorado, which is a Pac-12 school, leaving Jackson State after the bowl game. He's still the coach at this point in time.
Celebration Bowl, yeah.
The Celebration Bowl. They got a lot of mixed emotions. I've been hearing a lot of interviews, a lot of radio shows with their hoopla about the whole situation. And I like I said, man, as those people that, well, I put it like this: there are people that like you for the moment, but they don't like you after you left them hanging dry. I put it like that.
People like you for what you could do for them. That's a common theme in life. But go ahead.
You know, I heard a lot of mixed emotions from people that are in the community in that area, saying that he sold out, he left, leaving us hanging, but he didn't do what he said he was gonna do. But technically, he did what he said he was gonna do in a short amount of time at that. You know, and good ways, you know, and I know, you're not gonna level no playing field in that particular division of football, regardless of who you are or what you done. It is what it is, and it's just gonna be what it's gonna be. And you got to blame that on the stigma of those people that are higher up in those positions at those schools, those historical black colleges. You're not gonna get the things that you want because they don't feel the need to put back into. This man spent out his own pocket. Didn't have to, you know, didn't have to do that at all. He made sure your facilities were taken care of, upgraded a lot of things that he could do. He's only one man. He's not going to sit here and spend all his money on one place.
Got the Under Armour endorsement and all that. They only, aside from Oregon, no college football program in Division I had more jersey combinations than Jackson State.
Exactly. And I think they had they had New Jersey every game almost.
Yeah. So they were, as far as jersey-wise, they were in the same company as Oregon as far as having jerseys and all that. So he leveraged his superstardom to help raise the profile of the school. The school started getting national coverage and getting games on national TV as well, which was something that that school wasn't accustomed to. So, I mean, it did a lot of good down there.
Yeah, I think you can't be there forever. Like I said, you can't be there forever. I know they see the stigma of, you know, the Eddie Robinsons and the Buddy Pughs and all those coaches that like to stay at HBCUs for over 20 plus years, but you gotta think, man.
Eddie Robinson there for like 50 years, but yeah, we'll go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm just saying the span of time.
Yeah.
Not moving up into when you had the opportunity to move up into a Power 5 school from a
FBS, or just FBS in general, from the FCS to the FBS in general. Yeah, most coaches are going to take that. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I feel, to me personally, I'm proud. I'm happy for him. I mean, it's a new opportunity. If he can turn that program around to a contender, then I feel like he's done his job. Regardless, they only won one game this year. One game. Yeah. So if you can build something out, even if you win 6 games, it's a change. You know, coming into, like, we're not the laughing stock of the Pac-12 anymore. We people take us serious now.
Yeah, he got his work cut out for him though. What I'll say is, I'm never gonna knock a man for taking a great opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm never going to knock a man for accepting a higher opportunity. Just like at your job, if a promotion or another job with a better opportunity that makes sense for you and your family comes about, you're going to take it. Same thing here. Don't knock any of that. Coaches, he's not the first coach to leave a job after being there a short time. I remember when Bobby Petrino went to Western Kentucky and was there for 1 year, and then he went back to Louisville. I remember how that happened. I also remember when Bobby Petrino was with the Atlanta Falcons and quit with 4 games left in the season after in the middle of his first season. I've seen that happen. I've seen a guy like Scott Frost go to Central Florida for 2 years and leave and go to Nebraska. I've seen that happen. So, I mean, that's not unprecedented and is not unheard of. There are 2 sides to the coin, though. I think where the people who are upset, I think they're upset with the message that he preached, because he did preach a message like he was all in on the uplifting and the raising of the profile of HBCU, which he did.
He did, yeah.
Right, but at the same time, the sentiment that he was giving off is like, I'm in this for the long haul. He may have didn't say those exact words, but when he was preaching about, this is not about money, this is about molding young men and all that. When you make statements like that, when you do leave, I think that's what upset people. Again, I don't have a problem with him leaving. He took a better opportunity. I have zero issue with that whatsoever. If somebody offers me $5 million, I'm leaving my job tomorrow too. So I mean, there's I have no quarrel about that. The thing I do have an issue with, and it's not about him leaving the job, I do think he's a self-centered egomaniac. I do think that about him. He was like that even when he played. I think at the end of the day, I think it's about him. And I think from the beginning, I don't think it ever was about uplifting the profile of HBCUs. I think he was wanting to show his critics that he can coach, because he wanted the job at Florida State. There were other opportunities he wanted, and he was never given the chance. And I think that was his opportunity to stick it to his haters and say, look, I'm doing what you said I can't do. And then when an opportunity in the Pac-12 opened up, of course he took the job, and that's now even another opportunity to prove all his doubters wrong. So I think it was more about uplifting himself than it was uplifting those around him. Nevertheless, I'm not going to knock him for taking the job. It just sounds disingenuous when you do all that preaching about it's not about the money, and then you take the money. Nothing wrong with taking the money. I'll take the money. Take the money. I'm not knocking him for taking the money, but when you're preaching this message, and it's not about Deion, this is about coaches in general, and that's why I hate when coaches get mad when players put their personal interests first. Lots of times you hear coaches complain about players putting themselves before the team, especially in college and high school and that scholastic level. They talk about players being selfish, players not wanting to wait their turn, players wanting to transfer, players skipping bowl games. They get upset about it, saying they're selfish and they're not putting the team first. However, and not in this particular case, but I see coaches all the time tell these kids they're in it for the long haul, have these kids commit to them 4 years. This is not just Deion. This is in all across college sports in general, even in high school sports too, that I'm here to help mold you and help you get where you need to get. Then as soon as a better opportunity comes, they're gone. But yet a lot of these old school coaches stuff get mad when players do the same thing. So when a quarterback gets benched in the middle of the season and he decides to enter the transfer, decides that he's going to transfer or sit out the rest of the season and transfer right in the middle of the season, people criticize him. And like, for example, Larry Drew. You remember Larry Drew? He used to play point guard at UNC.
Yep.
When Larry Drew lost his job to Kendall Marshall, he sat out in the middle of the season, decided he was going to transfer. He ended up transferring to UCLA. He was heavily criticized because he was selfish, not thinking about the team. Same thing when Kelly Bryant lost his job to Trevor Lawrence, and he's played the first 4 games, and then he sat out so he could preserve his eligibility. There were criticism of him where people were referring to him as selfish and not caring about the team. But only thing he did was what coaches do. He put his best interest first. So what's good for the gooses is good for the gander. I get tired of these coaches complaining about players skipping bowls, complaining about players not wanting to partake in this and that, and looking out for themselves, or players not wanting to fight through adversity, transferring out to get to a better situation when coaches do the same thing all the time. Coaches skip bowl games all the time when they got their next job lined up. When a player skips a bowl game, his next job in the NFL is lined up for him. He's preparing for his next job. Coaches all the time skip bowl games as they prepare for their next job. I commend Deion for sticking around to coach in the Celebration Bowl, because a lot of coaches don't do that. Mm-hmm. What I will say, he's an excellent recruiter.
Yeah,
and he knows how to put together a good staff. And that's how Dabo Swinney has been able to have success, having a great staff and being an excellent recruiter. I think that he'll hit that transfer market hard. He got his work cut out for him in Colorado, but I think if administration is patient, I keep hearing the voice.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. But if the administration is patient, I think he can get that program turned around and be successful. That's a program that used to be a powerhouse program. When they had the likes of Cordell Stewart, Michael Westbrook, a name I shouldn't call, but Ray Caruth, guys like that. When they had those kind of guys playing for them, they were powerhouse.
And don't forget about the Heisman Trophy winner, Rashad Salaam.
Say his name.
Rashad Salaam.
I mean, I forgot about Salaam. But and even in the 80s and 90s, they were a powerhouse and won a championship in 1990. But those days are long gone. Mm-hmm. To me, Colorado and Nebraska are basically one and the same. They're former Big 8 powerhouses. Mm-hmm. They used to be the Big 8 together. They were the Big 8 and the Big 12 together. The former Big 8 powerhouses that won national championships while they were in the Big 8 and Big 12. And cold weather areas that have a hard time recruiting, not because of cold weather, because this era of players it's been so many years removed since Colorado and Nebraska were powerhouses, where most of these kids coming up now don't even know about the storied history of Nebraska and Colorado. I can throw Missouri, even though I'm not going to call it. Some parts of Missouri is cold, but even Missouri, another former Big 8, Big 12 school that used to be a powerhouse. It seems like all of those schools in the Big 8 that used to be powerhouses in those cold weather areas have fallen off immensely. And to rebuild that prestige is going to be tough. I think he can do it, but they got to allow him time. It's going to be a little harder to do than it was Jackson State, because what you got to understand, at Jackson State, he was like a god there. It's like, oh my God, it's Deion Sanders. He chose us. Yeah. Colorado's a little different. It's first of all, and this statement is not to be derogatory. You're dealing with the white folks' money at Colorado.
There you go.
And the environment's going to be a little different.
Yep.
They're going to look for you to turn it around immediately.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, you're not going to be smacking Grambling around. You're not going to be smacking Southern around. You're going to, at least for the first 2 years, going to play USC. I know USC for the Big Ten, but for a couple of years, Oregon,
State, Utah.
Yeah. So you got. Yeah. So the thing about it at Jackson State, and this is not me trying to play Debbie Downer, but it's a realistic conversation. If you look at Jackson State, when you bring in guys like Travis Hunter, number one recruiting nation, you got several other 4-star prospects who ordinarily would have been FBS Power 5 prospects, about 10 of them or so that's on your team. And so now you basically got an FBS roster playing against an FCS conference. And so you're empirically better talent-wise than everyone you're facing on the field. Like when you face Southern, you're decisively better talent-wise. Just from the moment you walk on the field, you got FBS Power 5 prospects on your team. When you play Grambling, you're empirically better. When you play Prairie View A&M or whoever, you're empirically better. When you're playing Florida A&M, you got 2 to 1 more talent than them because you have 10 or so guys who ordinarily will be playing at Florida State, who will be playing at FBS Power 5 programs. Now, when you go to Colorado, that's not going to be the case. Yeah, you may be bringing in big-time recruits, but Oregon got a slew of 4- and 5-star recruits in their team. So Washington got a slew of 4-star recruits in their team. So it's not like you're going to be where, okay, I got these kind of players, and now they're decisively better than everyone else on other teams. Everybody in that conference got 4- and 5-star players. So, so you're having to do that just to be equal. Whereas there, you were far superior with the talent you had. So that's something that people got to keep in mind as well.
Yeah.
And I do not think he's going to be there for long. You know where I think he's going to eventually end up at? You're going to think I'm crazy, but take a guess where I think he's going to eventually end up.
Let me ask, college or pro? That's on
college.
He probably either Auburn or Florida State.
I'm going to throw a wild card in there. One you think I'll never say.
Miami?
Think about it. Florida State did not give him a chance when he wanted that job.
That's true.
He doesn't forget anything.
That's true.
And the thing about it, Ben Franklin doesn't have any rivals.
No, it doesn't.
Ben Franklin doesn't have any rivals. I promise you he doesn't.
He brings everybody together.
Ben Franklin or divide him and have him shoot and kill him, but still you give a fuck.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. I get you. I get the drill.
But Ben Franklin doesn't have a rival. So Ben Franklin doesn't see logos.
Nah, he don't.
So and I think Deion at Miami would be the perfect fit, man. If you can't you see him and Uncle Luke on the sidelines and all that
Yes,
with
sir.
that whole thing?
I can imagine
Culturally,
all that recruiting. That in-state recruiting is gonna be
right?
mad
Number one,
crazy.
he's already an excellent recruiter. Miami is already a recruiting hotbed. His
Yes,
name alone is the name Miami draws recruits. Anyway, Miami been having a recruiting class. They just been underperforming.
performance.
You,
Yes,
you, if you take Deion and put him at Miami, now you even increase those top 15 recruiting classes, like number one, number two recruiting class, and he will have a great coach staff, and they'll be motivated to play for him, and he will re-energize that base down there in Miami, and he will have the opportunity to stick it to his alma mater who didn't give him a chance. And I think he would love nothing more than that. I feel like if he does well at Colorado, for like 3 years from now, if he's doing well at Colorado and Mario Cristobal ends up not doing well at Miami and Cristobal gets dismissed to Miami, I think you'll see Deion go to Miami and coach to you and then stick it to his alma mater, Florida State, and relish the challenge of bringing the U back to prominence. And culturally, he knows a lot of guys in Miami. He mentored a lot of those guys. A lot of those guys go to his camps and his
yep.
I don't want to say not AAU, but you know what I mean. But like his
Yeah,
club,
like
his league, his amateur leagues and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like a lot of them go to his camps and are mentored by him anyway. So he know a lot of these kids down there in Florida. Anyway, if you put Deion at Miami, I mean, he could turn Miami back into the old Miami. I think eventually that's what's going to happen. He ends up in Miami and he sticks at Florida State.
that's a good wild card. I didn't even think about that. Now that you say that is a good wild card there.
Because guys go to places rivals all the time to coach and stuff. For example, Ken Norton Jr., former defense coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, he played his college ball at UCLA, but he was linebackers coach for USC for a while under Pete Carroll. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Same thing in the NFL. Guys leave rivals. Guys go from the Panthers and Falcons and Cowboys and Eagles and stuff all the time. And when it comes to dollar bills, man, let me tell you something right now. If Richmond Senior High School offered me, I'm just gonna say they were paying Deion Jackson State $300,000. For regular people like us, $300,000 is a lot of money. If Richmond Senior High School called me right now and hired me for something $300,000 a year, I'm on my way to Rockingham tomorrow. And anybody who knows me knows that I detest Richmond Senior High School. But when Ben Franklin get involved, you know what? I think that we can forgive and heal.
Yeah, we can forgive and forget.
If Forest Hills High School offered me $300,000 a year right now, I'm taking my butt to Marshville tomorrow. You know what? If they said they need me, I'm taking my butt to Marshville tonight. If they texted me right now and say, come sign this deal, I'm gonna say, Nick, I'll see you later. I gotta head down to Marshville. And everybody know how I feel about Forest Hills. I hate them. But when Ben Franklin gets involved, Ben Franklin erases that hate.
Yeah, it's all love.
Yeah, it's all love, man. Ben Franklin, man, he's a great mediator, man.
Yeah, great mediator, great
negotiator,
great overall.
He's a connector, man. Ben Franklin puts the pieces together. He pulls the missing pieces together, man.
Yeah, he makes things that much better.
Yeah,
when you got all of them in the room together, they just make it so much.
Yeah, and let me get Uncle Ben in here. Uncle Ben, come talk to me.
Uncle Ben, cousin Ben.
Andrew, his buddy Andy Jackson, his buddy Ulysses S. Grant. We can bring them all in. Harry Tubman was supposed to be in that conversation. I don't know what happened with that.
No, bring a little Hamilton.
Hamilton, come on, Hamilton. Come on,
Abe. We'll take some Washingtons. The green.
Yeah, come on, Abe. Come on, George. I mean, it's all one big family.
Yeah, one big family. That's all.
And then you got adopted Aunt Harriet. She's supposed to be joining the family soon. Harriet, bring them all in there, man.
Get all those Tudmans, man.
Let's get in there. Let's talk. And most times you get the family together like that, man, we can come up with an agreement.
Yeah, you breaking bread, man. That's what they say. We break bread.
Yeah. So when people talk about Deion left for the money, of course he did. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the man's been rich all his life, so he's not going to sit here and take.
Well, been rich since he's been a pro football player. Let's say that.
Well, I mean, since he's been drafted.
Yeah.
Majority of his adult life, he's been a wealthy man of endorsements and games and whatever.
Yeah.
So you really think that he's finna sit here and take pennies on the dollar when he can get dollars on the dollar.
Well, I always felt like the whole purpose of him even taking that job was never about
Money?
about it was never about putting HBCUs in the spotlight. It was a stepping stone the whole time to prove that he can coach, and I think, and I'm not knocking him for that. It's just that for the people who felt duped, I understand why they felt that way. Nevertheless, they got to understand this is a business, and like you said, you either get elevated or terminated. Like for example, you remember Tim McMahon used to coach Anson County?
Mm-hmm.
He did the same thing. He left us and went down to Emerald High School. They offered him an athletic director job, and he got a lot more money, and he left. And he was only here 2 years. Won back-to-back conference championships, took us to back-to-back third round of the playoffs, and he left a great team behind too. And people wonder why he leave. And yeah, I was a little salty when he left. I'm like, how can he do us like that? Emerald High School allegedly offered him over $100,000 a year to be the head coach and athletic director.
And he wouldn't get nowhere near that much here.
Right. So I mean, what are you expecting to do? Turn it down?
He'd be a fool.
And then people got mad at him because he interviewed for the job at Scotland County. And Scotland County called him. And so of course they're gonna at least see what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's business.
And
I hate that Tim McMahon left. Our program maybe would have been since he'd been gone. but
I'm pretty sure the man wouldn't have left if they would have put the money in his pocket.
Yep.
I can put 100. I can put as much. I bet you the phone that man would never have left if y'all had paid him.
Yep. I think he's retired now.
Why would he leave a good situation?
I'll even go out to say, as far as just pure coaching, in them 2 years, Tim McMahon was the best coach Anson County had. And that's no disrespect to Coach Davis, no disrespect to Coach Grooms, no disrespect to Coach Jackson, Coach Hyatt, anybody that we Coach Emery got rest soul. That's no disrespect to any of them. But I'm talking about just from a pure coaching standpoint, as far as getting guys ready to play and maximizing your level of talent.
He was
and maximizing your personnel. I think in that short span, Coach Tim McMahon was the best coach that we ever had in that senior high school. And the reason I say that, in 2006, after the 2006 season, we lost 33 starters. We lost 33 seniors, not 33. We only got 22 starters. We lost 33 seniors, with 3 of them being high major FBS prospects. You lost Barkwell, who went on to play at Virginia Tech. You lost Trenton Sturtevant, who went on to play at Georgia. He lost Michael Bowman, who played at East Carolina, who was also recruited by South Carolina. You lost all of that. Then you lost some good FCS prospects. You lost Nelson Russian, who went on to play at Gardner Webb, who was a D1 FCS prospect, a good player as well. You lost a lot of you lost good players like Marshall Taylor and all those guys. You lost basically your entire starters. Only thing that you were left with was Dennis Rory, who was coming off a shaky junior season. That's no diss to Dennis. Dennis know that we're cool, and I would never. Yeah. But and I'm sure he would agree with me. He was coming off up and down junior season, and that was all that was left. You had a bunch of sophomores starting on offensive line and defensive line, and then you had a little freshman kid named Stephon Anthony that they had to start at linebacker on varsity. We see how that turned out, but and it looked like everyone was like Anson's only predicted to win 2 or 3 games. They went on to go 11-3, win the conference championship, went to third round of the playoffs with that team, and that's because he maximized his personnel and got those kids ready to play. I hold no reserves in saying that Tim McMahon is the best coach Anson County ever had. As far as pure coach, of course, Coach Davis is the most accomplished one, and you know how I feel about Coach Davis. Coach Emery was also the guy who put the program on the map, so I have immense respect for him as well. But as far as just pure coaching, I think anyone, I feel like Josh McLaurin will tell you this, Richard Davis will tell you this, that Coach Tim McMahon was the best coach in Anson Senior High School history, and he left us after 2 years, and I was disappointed at the time. But then in hindsight, when I evaluate the situation, he did what anyone else would do. He had to do what was best for him and his family, and he put he and his family in a better social economic situation. And I'll never criticize the man for that.
No, I ain't gonna criticize for that. I mean, he does what any human being with some common sense would do.
Yeah,
put it that way. If the opportunity is better, why not take it?
I grew up in church with an old man. He's no longer with us now. His name was Mr. L.J. Little, and I don't mind calling his name. And you know his grandchildren. If you know James Little, that went to school with us, and Mark Little and all them, he was their grandfather. I remember on Sundays at church, he would always say, "I don't want to stay at the same level." He said, "I want God to take me higher." He would always talk about that. He said we need to be looking to elevate ourselves. He said we need to climb higher. He said we're not supposed to stay at the same level. We're not supposed to be at stagnation. We're supposed to climb higher. And whether it's with our spirituality, our relationship with God, whatever we're trying to embark on in life, the goal and the objective is to go higher. And so, in my professional life, your professional life, Dion, whoever else, I think everyone has aspirations to reach a level that they haven't reached before. I think everyone has aspirations, whatever your endeavors are, you want to be put in a better situation. You want to better yourself, whether it's going to school to get a degree, whether it's enlisting in the military, whether it's starting your own business, or no matter what it is, whether it's buying an investment property, whatever it is, you have. I think most forward-thinking people have aspirations in whatever their endeavors are to get at a higher level than they currently are.
Right.
For example, if and this is not knocking anyone's profession, if you're a cashier at Food Line, you have aspirations to maybe become the shift manager. And then after you become shift manager, become the store manager. After you become the store manager, become a district manager. After you become a district manager, become a regional manager. The funny thing about it, the CEO at Walmart started out sweeping the floors at Walmart when he first got hired. The point I'm making is he had aspirations to go higher. So to the people who used to sweep floors with him, or if he ever became the supervisor of the maintenance crew or whatever, if he left, they can't say, oh, well, he left us behind. It's like he didn't have aspirations to stay the same. And so we can't preach elevation and growth, and then when someone elevates, try to pull them down. So I'm not for that at all. At the same time, we also need to be genuine, and when we're mentoring, leading young men and women, we need to be sincere and honest with what we tell them. Because here's the thing: when people look at you as a mentor, when people look at you as an entrusted figure, when people look at you as their leader, you want them to buy into what you're selling. You want them to buy into what you're preaching. In order for them to do that, you need to be credible and you need to appear credible. The thing is, when you're a leader, you can't be upset when the people beneath you go rogue when they feel that you're not genuine with them. Right. And that's the culture that we have with players being what some people call selfish or having their own best interests. When it comes to NIL and all that stuff, people complain about it, saying, hey, these are collegiate athletes, they should be doing this. The people, they're just following the example of their leaders. Their leaders will bolt for money at any given opportunity. Right. So if a player leaves UNC Charlotte and goes to LSU and get a better NIL deal, all they're doing is just following the examples they've seen set before them by their leaders. A coach will leave Western Michigan to go to the University of Michigan in a heartbeat for more money. So now players are doing the same thing. So how can coaches call players selfish for not wanting to stick things out when as soon as another opportunity comes, they'll bail on them in a heartbeat? So how can you get mad when players bail on you when you sit in those living rooms and sit with these mothers and fathers and tell them, hey, I'm going to watch over your son. I'm in this. I want your son to commit to me for 4 years. But as soon as another opportunity comes, I might be going next year. Right. I'm not mad at a coach for leaving, but at the same time, when you preach that turnabout is fair play, then you can't get mad when players realize the opportunities that are before them and put themselves and their families first.
I agree. Yeah, I like I said, man, Dion, I wish you the best of luck. You know, the man did what anybody else would do. If the bag is calling you, with more bag. Yep. He went to the bigger bag.
Yep.
I mean, you can only go so far those places, man. It's not like Jackson State has more money than Colorado. Let's just be
no, of course not. I mean, I don't even think that's even a legitimate conversation to have. I'm gonna tell you something Steve Nash said a few years ago when he was with the Lakers, when he was on his last leg and should have retired. And they asked him, Mike Green or somebody, or Jeff Van Gundy, one of the guys from ABC/ESPN, asked him, Steve, you're 39 years old, why didn't you not retire at the end of last year? He said, you want to know the honest answer? He said, yeah. He said, if I would have retired, I would have had to forfeit $10 million. He said, and I didn't want to leave that $10 million on the table.
And it is.
Yeah, so the point I'm making is he didn't make up any BS about the love for the game or this brotherhood and camaraderie and all that. He made it clear, look, they owe me $10 million and I wasn't going to leave it on the table. I think
Any human wouldn't.
yeah. I mean, just be transparent. I mean, you might not necessarily be that blunt about it, but and Dabble Sweeney has this reputation too of doing all that sweet talk, going to the living room. I mean, I know he's still at Clemson, but he has that reputation of being this sweet talker. And I've talked to people who play for him who said that there's a different side of him once you leave Clemson or once you're not there anymore. It's almost like once you're gone from there, he doesn't care about you anymore. I've never met the man, but I'm talking about but those are things that have been said about him. So the point I'm making, these coaches. And this is not directed to Deion. I'm talking about in general. I'm talking about any coach, especially at the collegiate level. They preach all that good stuff about molding young men, making them productive members of society, getting them graduated and getting them degrees. And these schools lie about it too, talking about they want high character men and want to have good graduation rate, get guys degrees and all that. That's not as far as the school. Yeah, Lane.
Yep.
Lane did it to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Give him there 1 year and dipped. But the point I'm making, first of all, these institutions.
Move to the trap house.
What's happening, brother? With the difference with the schools claim that they want graduating and high character guys. No, they don't. They want you to win football games and basketball games. And if you're not winning games, they don't care. They don't care if with the exception of like Vanderbilt and Stanford and places like that. But I'm talking about typically Notre Dame maybe. But typically speaking, your job is to win football games. They're not worried about whether you graduate players or not. They should quit lying and saying that. And as far as the coaches, their concern is winning football games and making money. It's not about molding men and being a father figure to men and making them a productive member of society, at least at the college level.
And the perfect example, I'm glad you brought that up about the Dabo thing. We clearly seen it this past weekend with what was going on. Salute Tony C. We seen that when he was, we believe in DJ. I showed him this film and he's gonna. We got his back.
And then he pulled him out 2 series.
Pulled him out 2 series, and guess where he at? Transfer portal.
Yeah, and I don't know who's gonna want him, but yeah.
Hey,
somebody take him. He'll end up somewhere like Louisiana Tech or something like that.
Jackson State needs a quarterback, so
I don't know if they want him. I could see him somewhere like FAU or something like that.
Yeah, FAU.
Middle Tennessee, any places like that. I can see him at he's from California. I mean, I can see him like at Fresno State, San Jose State or something like that. I can see him going somewhere like that.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody pick him up. I mean, he was up and he had some good games too. I mean, he was still a starting quarterback on a team that went 10-2.
Yeah.
And then so I mean,
yeah,
and his numbers were so. It's not like he was god awful. He just he's not a big playmaker. That's all. But I mean, if you got a good team around him, I mean, he was the number 1 pocket. He was number 2 pocket passer in the country coming out of high school. I still wonder with Dabo, even with the coaching side of him. Let me explain this. Clemson don't have the staff they used to have.
Nope.
Dabo has been very fortunate to have a great staff. Having Brent Venables on defense all them years, then having guys like Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott and all those guys like that, and other guys too. A lot of those guys he had, those great assistants he had, they're not there anymore. And now I'm wondering, is Clemson? I mean, I know they just won the ACC, but I'm wondering, are they going to get back to competing for national championships again, or are they more just going to be like an ACC champion? Because I wonder how much longer Dabo even wants to be there before he retires or take another job, because it may be a situation where he grows stagnant. And for him to stick with that guy that long, if he had this Cuban guy who can play, that makes me question his coaching. But go ahead.
But dang, he said, "But tell you why he gonna get fired, man." I want to hear that one too.
I want to hear it too. I'm just curious. I mean, I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I just want to know.
I mean, get fired. I don't think he'll get fired. He gonna win the games. He's not gonna go. He's not gonna sit and go 11-1. I'm telling you, not this year. That's just out the table. If
they might go 6-6
at best. Yeah. 8 is perfect. I mean, 8 games.
They ain't winning 8 games. You gotta rebuild that whole roster from scratch. They ain't winning 8
games. 8 is my max. 6 is the expectation. You know, a bowl game. They'll get a bowl game this year.
Yeah, playing one of them Emerald Nut Bowls or something like that.
From the Bahamas Bowl,
Ha!
Radio
USC
Shack.
sure played Bahamas Bowl in 2019, man. So, hey. And we lost.
Yeah, he ain't walking out on 30 million.
I ain't gonna walk out on it.
I'm gonna walk to
it. Colorado run by different folks from Jackson State here.
Oh, yeah.
It does some white folks money.
Yeah, that kind of money.
Yeah.
That kind of money.
Yeah, you gotta
plenty.
It's a little different.
Lots of money. You know.
Now, one thing about Deion, he's not a kisser, and he ain't just gonna take no crap now. No. And he's in shape where he could tell the administration that kisses, you know what? Now, I mean, so I'm not worried about him bowing down or anything like that.
Nah, see, he should be fine. I think, like I said, you got 6 games. 6 is the expectation. I mean, you got a big, like you said, it's the biggest slate of competition. You got 4 or 5-star recruits at
everywhere, even the bad school, even the worst of the worst got top level players. Just like you said, when people talk about these guys transferring in and they're 4 and 5-star guys, I'm like, so Oregon got a whole team of those guys. Washington got a whole team of those guys.
Washington State.
I know for 2 years they got to play USC at least 2 more years. USC got a whole slate of those guys. I know USC going to the Big Ten in a couple of years, but in 2025. But for right now, they're still there. They got a whole team full of those guys. UCLA got a whole team full of those guys.
Yep. Cal.
That's what Cal ain't even all that great, and they still got guys like that. So the difference at Jackson State is when you're getting 4-star Power 5 FBS prospects, your team is the only one in your conference that has those guys. So you're empirically better than all the rest of the other competition. Whereas if you got 4 and 5-star guys here in Pac-12, everybody in Pac-12 got those guys.
And not forget about Utah, because we can't sit here and pass up on Utah like they just didn't.
Right, exactly. They're the conference champions, so exactly. So it's like, so when you just say that, I'm like, well, everybody in the conference got those kind of guys.
Yeah, and they did it twice. So,
and far that goes, if you look at Colorado's team now, I'm sure everybody that's on that roster last year was rated higher than the majority of the guys in Jackson State roster coming out of high school.
I'm pretty sure they were 4 or 5-star recruits.
At least 4.
Yeah, 4.
So, if we go into the Colorado, first of all, Colorado needs to get out of the Pac-12. They need to go back to the Big 12. What they need to do, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, I know they ain't finna go now.
The Big 12 kind of, I don't know, man, because the Pac-12 was kind of, when UCLA and USC leave, some of the teams are trying to bolt. They try to get out of there.
Because
who are they going to replace USC and UCLA with?
I don't know. Unless they get Colorado.
I think Boise State gonna be one of them. That's just my personal pick.
What about BYU? BYU?
BYU going to the Big 12.
Oh, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think BYU start the Big 12 next year. I think for football and basketball and everything. I think Boise State will go to the Pac-12, and I think San Diego State. I think that's what they're gonna go with.
That's fair.
I think they're rolling with that.
He said, "I got it." What's your question, Tay? What's your question? But I honestly, I think, when was it Big 12? So it'd be Texas and Oklahoma going to SEC, right?
Yeah, in 2025, Texas and Oklahoma goes to SEC.
Yeah, they go to SEC, and then you got USC and UCLA going to Big 10.
Yep.
That's gonna be, well, I can say it's weird because
yes, it is weird.
It's weird because the area they in, they so far away from everybody.
Yeah, you got to go to Rutgers all the way in New Jersey and stuff, man. That's gonna be crazy. Got to go to Maryland.
Yeah, it's like they got to travel. Those teams got the actual travel.
And people are only thinking about football. What about in the middle of the year with basketball and baseball and all those other non-revenue sports and track and field and all that stuff?
Would pass his son for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns first within the division. If Caleb Williams did that, he will.
Stanford. Speaking of Stanford, that's a job of Coach David Shaw stepped down.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, right after that last game.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even.
Yeah, it wasn't really talked about like that, but I saw the press conference where he had informed the team he had stepped down. He said that he prayed about it and he kept hearing God's voice tell him it's time. So after 14 years of Coach Davis show, Stanford's a hard job too, man.
Yeah, he's been there for about
14 years. You know, he was Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator for a little while.
Yeah. Caleb got one more year.
Who's Caleb?
Williams from USC.
Yeah, because he's a sophomore this year. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, basically, who he passed 300 yards for and 3 touchdowns within the division.
Whoever. I mean, just depending on who you're playing. Well, first of all, depending on what kind of offensive line they got.
Yeah, that's true.
If you ain't got an offensive line, you ain't passing any kind of yards.
Shador be running for his life.
Yep. If you ain't got no line.
He's a runner. He's a track star.
And the thing, and I'm not knocking the kid. I think the kid can play, but and he's not going to be faster and more athletic than everybody like he was at Jackson State either. He's going to be playing with people equally as athletic, if not more athletic.
Yeah. I mean,
like he was better. Like where he was playing at, the competition he was playing with, he was better than everybody he stepped on the field against.
The USC, that's easy money. Well, they don't got a good defense for that.
They don't have a good defense at all.
Nah, they don't.
I saw when they came against Utah. They can't tackle War for a hill of beans.
Nah, they got beat by Utah twice this year. So Utah
sure did.
Utah smacked them in the season. Then well, they didn't smack them. They beat them.
Yeah, I watched the game with the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah,
I watched all of them.
They just destroyed them.
USC was killing them early. They went 17-3, and then when Utah kind of got their bearings, they got to playing their style of ball, their grinded out type ball, and kind of got their footing in the game, and then and got their feet settled under them, and they were fine then.
He said they went 2 degree trade. It is an improvement. It's one game. They won 2 more than they did last year.
That's true.
That is an improvement.
And I believe in Coach Sanders, and I think that he can get that Colorado program turned around. But I hope people realize that that's a tougher situation he's in now.
Thank you. That man's playing in a high school. He had to lead to get drafted.
He got drafted anyway. Steve McNair was the 3rd overall pick out of Alcorn State, so I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, we talked about that Sunday. I was telling them that Steve McNair was the third place in the Heisman. He was
3rd in the Heisman and 3rd overall pick in the 1995 NFL draft out of Alcorn State, which is in the SWAC.
Yep, that was in the SWAC. Passed over, we said 6,000 something yards, 47 touchdowns, something like that.
Yeah, Steve to Aaron McNair.
Yep, it was tough.
Tough as nails, man, because he took a beating out there in Tennessee.
Yeah, he did. I don't think Eddie George took that much of a beating.
Nah. Eddie George coached at Tennessee State, by the way. So
yeah. But you know, and I want to ask this is play devil's advocate, because I'm glad you said that. Would we get the same reaction if Eddie George went to Colorado?
No.
State? You don't think we would?
No, but we don't hear Eddie George's mouth all the time either.
No, we don't.
And furthermore, what are they even dominant at that level? Has he got that Tennessee State program at that same level, competing at a high level like that?
I honestly don't think so.
Right. You don't even hear anything from Eddie George from the public. So
no.
I think they should. What people continue to ignore about the Deion thing, and I'm not knocking the dude. I'm not saying he's a bad dude, but what people continue to ignore about it is he the one that did all this preaching. He the one that did all this talking about what he wants to do about how he's molding these men and how he's looking out for the HBCU. Those were his words. So yes, he has a right to take the money, and I'm not mad at him for taking it. But at the same time, he can't be shocked when there are people who are disappointed in him. Just like he has the right to take the job that he wants to take, and there's nothing wrong with that. People have the right to have an unfavorable opinion. It's like we don't all have to agree. Not everybody has to sit there and adore him and have adoration for him. There can be people that say that, hey, I'm disappointed in him. That doesn't make them right. That doesn't make him right. That doesn't mean that somebody's right or someone's wrong. There are people who have the right to feel that, hey, he did what he said he was going to do, and he's good to go. And then there are other people who have the right to say that, hey, I'm disappointed in him. We can't tell someone how they should feel about something. Just like we can't tell him what he should do with his life and what he should do with his career, you also can't. On the flip side, people are entitled to their opinions, and people are entitled to feel however they feel about the situation.
Right. All right, let's get to the next topic because I've been itching and burning about this. This one, pause. Um,
Come on, man.
I know, man. It came out. See how I did that.
Nah, I know this. Hey, grow that fuck, man.
How do you feel about trading?
Who?
How do you feel about trading things? Like, I trade you. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, I trade you 2 bicycles for 1 big bicycle.
I gotta see how good the deal is. Like, what's the 2 bicycles worth?
Let's just say I trade you. Let's say that I traded you at lunch 2 apples for some bread, Chris.
No, I'm not taking that. You gotta come better than that.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. Now, this is what I'm getting at with that trading stuff. I think my country. Now I'm gonna say this because I can say this. It's the dumbest, and if not the stupidest country in the world.
Why you say that? I'm gonna rebut that, but go ahead.
Not well. I'm just gonna say let me say the government. Can I put the government?
I mean, it's your opinion. You can say what you want.
The government. I'll say the government. You gave away a Russian arms dealer for a WNBA player when there's also a U.S. Marine that's sitting locked up abroad somewhere. I don't know if he did any crime. He might be a prisoner of war. I don't understand that one. I'm so confused. You're giving away a criminal for they both did wrong. They both supposed to. I mean, they literally. You do the crime, you gotta do the time. All right.
Yeah, but to me, I thought her punishment didn't fit. She got caught with cannabis oil and was gonna get sentenced for 10 years of prison. To me, that crime is not egregious. That to me, that's just as egregious as when people were getting life sentences for selling drugs in the U.S. on the war on drugs, and that's even worse than that. The thing is, if we're gonna say that that's egregious, then how can we sit there and support that? Furthermore, the last few months, whatever, everyone's been talking about, been criticizing the United States for the failure to bring her home. They should try this. They've tried multiple things that didn't work, and everyone's saying try this. I'm like, everyone's been saying do whatever it takes to bring her home, and then now we bring her home, and now we're going to complain about what we did to bring her home. The thing is, when she wasn't home, people were complaining to about the president about these are not my words, but people were talking about young lady's sexuality and everything too, and her skin color. And people were saying that if she was someone else, if she wasn't a woman of her skin color and of her sexuality, there would have been a greater effort to bring her home. And people were complaining about there was no strong enough effort to bring her home. And then finally, you give people what they want, and then they still complain. So it's like when it comes to the current president, it's like he can't win for losing. In some people's eyes, no matter what he does, people are going to find fault in it. So, and yes, I get what you're saying about what they gave up to. I get what you're saying about what they gave up to get her. But at the end of the day, you have to give something to get something. And
I don't know.
If they wouldn't have done it, if they and the woman would have continued to rot in prison for 10 years, everyone would have been saying shame on the United States. And the narrative that would have been spun on it is that you let a black LGBT I'm trying to use the right term. I'm not trying to be funny. You let a black LGBTQ lady rot in prison, and the reason that you let it happen is because who she is and how she identifies. And the words, if it would have been anyone else, you would have made a concerted effort to free them. So it's you darn if you do, darn if you don't.
It's a slippery slope. I get what you're saying, and I get what you're saying too. Again, I mean, it's high for the charge of the crime that even though it's the law. The sentence was harsh, but it's still the law, regardless.
If we're gonna go there, it also was law that if a black person they give up the seat to a white person on a bus, they would get arrested. So I mean, if we're gonna go there, but
hey, I agree with that one. They should have definitely seen his ass.
So I mean, if we're gonna go there, there's still jaywalking is illegal too, but you're not gonna lock somebody up for it. So to me, there's a level of reasonability that has to be taken into account. And at the time, I think during the time, you got to realize Russia and the U.S. have never been allies. And you had a situation with the Ukraine and all that too. And at that time, I think they were making an example out of her. And I get what their laws are, and I understand that we're supposed to be law-abiding citizens. Let me ask you this: What's the speed limit down US 52 and by your house?
Well, going.
Just pick one of them that you see the sign on.
55.
55. So let me tell you this: have you never gone 57 riding through there?
I have.
All right. So what do? You broke the law.
I broke the law. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a petty infraction if they got you for 2 miles over. If they sent you to prison for 10 years over that.
That's true. But
so the point, and I know that's a difficult, just a totalitarian government, authoritarian country. But the point I'm making is, even though there are laws and laws are enforced, there's usually a reasonable level of grace, depending on how major or how minor the infraction is. Even if let's say someone has marijuana. If someone only has a minimal amount, they're just going to write them a citation and let them go, typically. But if someone has multiple pounds in their trunk, they're going to charge them with a felony with intent to sell. My point is, there are levels of grace that are typically offered, at least here in our country. Now, she was in a different country. However, she had a minimal amount of cannabis oil. At some point, you would think there should be a level of grace to say, this is minor, this is victimless, that this doesn't warrant 10 years in prison. So I think when it comes from a humanity standpoint and from just a point of reasonability, I think it was ridiculous and egregious. And at the time, there was a large outcry to bring this young lady home, especially with the optics of it, because with her sexuality and her skin color being factored in the narrative that was being put out about why there wasn't strong enough effort being brought home. I have a hard time fathoming people being upset that they finally did what you wanted them to do, and then you get mad with the means they took. At some point, you got to take the hands you're dealt and make the best out of it, and that's what they did. And the ultimate objective was to bring the young lady home, and that's what they made happen. And now we're still going to complain because the young lady's on her way home. I just can't co-sign that.
Well, let me see. I put it like this: what's going on, Chill Town?
How you doing, brother?
I put it like this. And I'm not saying your point's wrong, because it makes sense. But
yeah,
would you, in that situation, would you give away an arms dealer who it was intent to kill Americans? That was his intent, purpose, to kill Americans. Would you trade that back for? I get it, for her. I know the crime was petty. But his crime was a lot more serious than hers.
Well, let me ask you this: what's the alternative? Because the thing about it, the reason I say that is because typically when we get put in if-then situations, what we do, the choice we make is oftentimes based on what the alternative is. So, for example, if you just ask me today, would I eat food out of a trash can? The answer is going to be no.
Right.
Now let's change the alternative to that. Let's say if I don't eat out, let's say I'm in poverty and I'm poor and I have nothing, I'm homeless. Mm-hmm. So the alternative is, if I don't eat out the trash can, then I'm going to starve. That changes the situation. That changes the condition. Now, if you come back and if you ask a homeless man, would you eat out the trash can? His alternative is either eat out the trash can or starve to death. At that point, he's going to eat out the trash can. Whereas if he's a wealthy man or a middle class man or working class man who's able to afford food, where he can eat food out of a restaurant, out of a store, or prepare his own food, and you ask him, is he going to eat food out of the trash can? He's going to say no. So the thing is, what was the alternative? Because whatever the alternative, if the alternative was there's no other deal and we let this woman rot in prison, then I would say yes, then I'm going to do whatever's necessary to get this woman home, especially when I felt like that she was detained and in prison for unjust purposes.
Okay. Well, I give you the unjust.
I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just telling you what I think.
Change my mind. What I'm saying is, I agree the sentence was harsh. That part I agree with. That 9 years for something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and for a self-accountability standpoint, she shouldn't have been dumb enough to be knowing that you're an authoritarian, totalitarian nation. And when you're in another country, the onus is on you to be aware of what the laws are and what the potential punishments are. Because think about it, even here in the States, well, I would say ignorance of the law is not an excuse for breaking the law. So yes, I get that, but at the same time, like if I'm going 58 in a 55, I don't expect, and being a black man, that's a little slippery slope as well. But I don't expect to be mishandled egregiously because of that. I would think that, given how minor the infraction is, there will be a level of grace, because there's a general level of grace that's given with that kind of thing. There's precedent for a level of grace there. So just like if you get caught jaywalking, I'm not expecting you to get cuffed and taken to prison. There's typically a level of grace that's allowed with jaywalking, to where it's not where the precedent is that it's not typically enforced, and if it is, it's not enforced harshly. So all of a sudden now, for people to say you do the crime, do the time, when those same people probably were going 58 to 55 at some point today, but yet so it's okay for them to have grace, but it's not okay for this black lesbian WNBA player to get grace. Because I mean, and I know people don't want to get into that, but I think that has a lot to do with it, because the thing is, we know when we even in the United States, we know who the majority is in the United States, and we know how the majority feels. I'm not gonna say everyone. We know how they're people, and there's some people in the majority who feel that it's their birthright to run things, and when they don't get what they want, I'm not gonna get into what I really want to get into, but if they don't get what they want, but I'm gonna say this: Gerald Cannon, I hope you sue the heck out of Anson Cannon. I hope you run them dry. I said, they screwed you, and I hope you sue the county, and I hope you run them dry. And I'm not going to talk anymore about that. I just wanted to say that.
I need a job.
Sue the heck out of Anson County and take every dime out of them. Have them so poor to where they won't even have running water in the courthouse.
I can't say no more on it.
I'm not going to talk anymore on it, I keep it real. I hope you sue the heck out of the county, and I believe in that. Now back to what I was talking about. Certain people, when they don't get their way, they have a fit. It ain't about law. It's not about lawfulness. It's not about morals. It's not about anything. It's about what's convenient to them.
Right.
And as long as it's convenient to them, they have their way. All that matters. None of these things matter until it impacts them. And so if it doesn't impact them, that's when they have those stances. Then, once it impacts them, all of a sudden they sing a different tune. If that was one of their daughters or anything like that, they'd be begging for you to bring them home. Right. No matter what the circumstances are, because it impacts them. But in this situation here, it's impacting this LGBT black lady, so they don't care. So, and when it comes to us, we're always supposed to be held accountable. Where the majority, they're allotted grace. We're not allotted that same grace, and you know it. Right. When we make an error in judgment, when we make a wrong choice,
we're held more accountable for the judge.
We're held more accountable to the fullest extent of whatever the accountability may be.
Right.
Whereas, like, you remember that kid in Palo Alto, California, out there in Stanford, he was convicted of sexual assaulting a young lady. Of sexual assaulting a young lady, and didn't that judge only give him
community service?
Right. Yeah. Right, community service, because it didn't even imprison him, because he said that would be devastating to him, that would be traumatic to him. Now, you know, good and darn well if a black kid got a middle class black kid got convicted of sexual assault, he wouldn't have gotten just community service.
You got the book.
Right, and this is statistically proven. This is not my opinion. This is not how I feel about it. This is statistically proven when it comes to sentencing here in the United States. Black felons who have been convicted of crimes get longer sentences than their white counterparts for the same crimes of conviction. That's statistically proven and documented.
That is true. That is 100% true.
So statistically proven, it means that the Black Americans are held to a stronger level of accountability than white Americans for the same infractions.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, basically, I get that the sentence was harsh, but again, the crime, you knew the consequences of getting caught in that country with something, with paraphernalia or something. Any country, abroad, you getting locked up abroad. That's just period. They run different. You knew the
right, and you don't have your U.S. constitutional protections. From an accountability standpoint, she should have been smarter and should not have made that decision. Right. However, even though she made poor judgment, the impact, the result, the consequence of the poor judgment was not fitting of the minor level of the infraction that it was. And I felt like it was something to make an example. At the time, Russia is not an ally of ours, and I think it was just to make an example of it.
Right, yeah, I agree. And that was probably a way to get what they wanted.
Yeah, and that's all that was leverage. It had nothing to do with lawfulness and abiding by Russian law. It's the fact that it's a totalitarian, authoritarian country, and they wanted to make an example out of this girl from the U.S.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people here in the U.S. who was salty about her, Here's what bothered me. They talk about her stance with the anthem because she didn't like to sing the anthem and all that, or stand for the anthem. No matter how you feel about that, I'm not knocking anybody for their opinion about the anthem. I stand for the anthem. I always take my hat off. It's so cool. Using that to justify not rescuing this woman is ridiculous because, number one, that stance goes against the American exceptionalism that we claim to have, because we claim the freedom of expression, what you claim to have. So at this point, if a woman's been erroneously imprisoned and being deprived, and she's one of our U.S. citizens, we're going to say, nah, let her rock because we don't like that she doesn't stand for the anthem. That's ridiculous. And some of these folks who like to always use the crutch and always some of these people who like to lie on God, or what they claim they're so holy, and then some of these same people come up with some of the most unholy sentiments, some of the most hateful sentiments, but yet they claim to be ambassadors for Christ. Yet they'll come up with some of the most most unchrist-like sentiments, because Christ, if you're holding the sentiment of Christ, then there will be a sentiment of compassion. If you feel that you've been violated, if there's sentiment of Christ, there'll be a sentiment of forgiveness as well. If you feel like someone has wronged you or offended you, so for this point, the claim that you're a brother or a sister or a child of Christ, but yet to not even have a heart for this woman who's been taken away from her family erroneously, and a person who suffered in prison for something very minor and for something that she didn't even do to anyone, but yet because you disagree with her political stances, you want her to rot in prison. That's not Christ-like.
No, it's not.
And I've been reading on Facebook lately, a lot of these folks down there in Anson County who hide their bigotry behind Christ. Quit hiding your bigotry behind Christ. And for the record, I know you got him painted like that in your pictures. Christ did not have fair skin and blonde hair. If you actually read your Bible, he's described as with hair like a sheep and bronze skin, kind of like how people in the Middle East are typically described. Christ was an Israeli Jew who lived between the Tigris and the Euphrates. I'm talking about Christ in the flesh. Lived historically. And he was Israeli. Lived between the Tigris and the Euphrates. Lived at or around Jerusalem metropolitan area. He was from the Galilee region. Mm-hmm. So when you see churches named Galilee, that area in Israel, Jerusalem, and all of that's the Galilee region. He was an Israeli Jew from the Galilee region, who likely had olive bronze colored skin as described in the Bible, and that's how most Israeli Jews look, with wool-like hair, which you also see from a lot of Israeli Jews as well. So that's how Christ was not a blonde Caucasian man, and so that description does not fit Christ, and I'm tired of bigots hiding behind Christ.
He said that. But
I got to get rolling in a minute, but
we're finna shut it down right now. I appreciate everybody for coming here. Oh, before we go, hey man, once you tell what's going on, December 17th, put it out there, put it in the atmosphere, put it in the air.
Okay. Well, my birthday is December 11th, but I'll be on December 17th. I'll be at Mirage in Charlotte, and so got to be 30 and up to get in there. But I'll be there celebrating my birthday. Anyone who's a friend of mine is more than welcome to come celebrate with.
Absolutely, and man, y'all go support my guy if you in the Charlotte area. My brother, support him on his birthday, man. Y'all get in there and let's have a good time. 30 and up, man. 30 and up. Yeah,
no youngins allowed.
Oh yeah, and appreciate everybody for coming to the show. I'm gonna give T the floor so he can speak his mind. There you go.
I'm gonna take the high road. As the year is almost coming to an end, where it's almost been 3 years of the COVID pandemic. We've come a long way. That's something to be thankful to God for. We, for the most part, I think that those of us who are still here, we were able to weather the storm. He saw us through, and we're getting a sense of normalcy back. I know it's not completely gone. We're not completely eradicated of it. And I know there's some people out there who are still dealing with it, and my prayers are out to them. But at the same time, I think we have a lot to be grateful for. We should be thankful to the Father above. He's never let us down before. So I don't know why there should have ever been any concern that he was going to let us down this time. And again, he's shown us who he is, and he's shown us that nothing is too hard for him, and with him on our side, there's nothing that we can't endure and persevere through. And again, we're heading into our Christmas holiday. I'm thankful to say that we can actually sit. A couple of years ago, we weren't able to sit together and break bread at Table of Brotherhood. We're back to being able to break bread together at the Table of Brotherhood. We're able to sit in our churches again. We're able to sit in our football stadiums again. We're able to crowd our basketball arenas again. And you know what? I think all of this was just a reminder to let us know, don't assume that you have everything in the palm of your hands, because it could be taken away at the blink of an eye. We got to experience that. I think it made us a little more appreciative. It made us more appreciative of our family. It made us more appreciative of our money. It made us more appreciative of everything that we have that we thought was automatic. It made us more appreciative. And I think as we exit 2022 and head into 2023, I think we should all take time to reflect and look where he brought us from.
Absolutely. I say that. Oh shoot! I hit the wrong button. Wait a minute. Okay, my bad. Hit the wrong button. No, I'm gonna say this. I'll say this. Salute to everybody for coming in. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Culture Controversial Podcast. We've been on a little hiatus, not a long hiatus, just a little bit. You know, it's busy. It's busy part of the year. I try to get as much content as we can get out as we can when we can. You know, we try to. You know, I want to say shout out to the Trap House for coming in the building. If you're not subscribed to the Trap House, go subscribe to the Trap House. You're gonna enjoy. If you like to laugh and get a good sense of humor, and you're not one of those stuck up type of human beings, go on over there. It's your alley. It's your world. Also, subscribe to channel Chill Time as well. He's always dropping the dope shoes, the content, music, shoes, workout challenges. Go subscribe over there as well. Can't forget about Tony C at Let Me Hold Something, which is on the other side of the duplex of the Trap House. So y'all, if you want to laugh again, y'all hit on the Let Me Hold Something in the Trap House. I think they are live as we speak now for Thursday night football. So definitely check those people out, because I support them, and I definitely enjoy the content. Great human beings, in my opinion. Don't have a problem with them. Also, I want to say this to my boy at the Trap House, Yante. Hey, Georgia safe, baby. Georgia is safe. That's all you gotta say. Georgia is now a safe place, because we have a competent human being as your senator. And with that, I'm out. Hey, we'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
See you.